Hello, welcome back to Breaking Down Breaking Bad. We are on Season 1, Episode 2, The Cat in the Bag. I posted the first episode of this series yesterday, and I'm posting the second one today. But today's Monday, Monday the 9th of May. And so I'm hoping to maybe make this a Monday series and save every episode for a week. And so next Monday I'll watch episode 3 and so on and so forth. Someone's already said that they might do that and kind of watch along with me, which is awesome. I think that'll be really fun. And someone else has even said they're thinking about rewatching Breaking Bad. And to even get people into the idea and mood to watch Breaking Bad again is really cool. And for that reason this series has already been a success. But let's get into the episode, and this one will be a lot shorter than last time because there's no setup to talk about. Last time we left off episode 1, and there's no special features to talk about with episode 2 on the Blu-ray. There is an episode recap, but I cannot for the life of me get it to play. The menu system on this Blu-ray it's just a drizzling shit, and I'll talk about that at the end in the finale of season 1. That episode of this series, I'll kind of round up everything, talk about all the special features, as I've already mentioned. So, we left off with Walt kind of getting up for Skyler, so to speak, and we literally open with a black screen and the moans and panting of Walter and Skyler White in the throes of marital affairs, so to speak. And you know, they finish. Walt is coughing and panting. He goes into the bathroom. He's washing his face and looking in the mirror. And then we cut to the desert again, and it says 12 hours earlier. So in the first episode, we saw Walt, you know, ready to kill himself when he crashed the RV out in the desert, and he thought he was done for. And then, you know, by, well, not luck, but you know, he wasn't picked up by the police. The sirens he heard was the fire engine going to put out the fire that I guess he or one of the two thugs in the RV had started by flicking a cigarette out the window. Maybe it was even Jesse. So he was off the hook, and we never found out in episode 1 how he got back home and how he sorted it all out. He just got back home and answered his wife's questioning of where he's been all night with just, you know, engaging in sexual intercourse. That was his answer to to her wondering of where he was. So we go back 12 hours earlier, and we pick up from the moment where Walt is stood out in the desert in his underpants and his green shirt, wondering where, you know, how he's going to get out of this mess. And we see that this Indian guy is coming along with a digger and is helping to pull them out of this ditch. And it's quite a funny scene where Walter's trying to kind of explain everything away, like, I spilt my coffee, that's why my pants are off, and you know, Jesse's there with a big massive black eye, and they pay him suspiciously in drenched $20 bills, and this Indian guy just doesn't say anything, and you can tell he probably sees right through their bullshit. And then we cut to them inside the RV, and they're going to take off, and the Indian guy's gone. And I will talk about a few things this episode that I thought wasn't perfect. Yeah, I figured I may as well try and actually review these and kind of point out bad things if I can, negative things, and I'll get to those at the end, I suppose. We'll run through the episode. So Walt and Jesse are inside the RV, and Walt's like, right, we're done, you know, we're going to sort this out, the two dead guys in the back, and then me and you are going to part ways, and that's it. And Jesse's like, hey, double for me, you know, he's like, I didn't want to get involved in this in the first place, so they're really like just antagonizing each other. The RV won't start, and then it does, and they high-five to celebrate, which is really funny. They take the RV back to Jesse's place, and it turns out that one of the guys is not dead. Starts moving in the back of the RV, and that's the beginning, the teaser as they call it, before the Breaking Bad title sequence, which is great, by the way. I love the little tune and the graphic and everything, and it's perfect. It's just the right amount of time. It's not a Game of Thrones like 10-minute short film just to show you the credits. And so Walt's like, shit, one of these guys in the back hasn't died from the lethal gas thing that he concocted in the first episode to get them out of the mess. So what do? They drag the guy down into Jesse's basement. They leave him there. Well, no, they don't actually. No, I'm skipping ahead. Walt goes off and goes back home. Obviously, he says we'll deal with this tomorrow. So the next day, you know, things are a bit awkward between him and Skyler after last night's kind of activities between them, because he went to the bathroom after they had sex and just passed out. He wakes up on the bathroom floor, and so she's wondering what's going on. He's trying to kind of bring things down with a silly bit of, you know, a small anecdote from school, and she's not really buying into even reacting to it, which is a really interesting scene. Great acting. I mean, there's so much great acting in the show, but I really like that kind of breakfast scene. And then the phone rings, and it is Jesse, pretending to be from AT&T or something. So Walt picks up the phone and he's kind of arguing with Jesse, like, you know, I'll come around. And Jesse's like, you know, you got to come and sort this out. These two guys, one of them's still alive, one of them's dead. We got to sort it out. And Walt's like, I'll be there after school. Skyler's a bit, what was that phone call? She doesn't say it. She just wordlessly kind of, you know, gives Walt a look, and then off he goes, and she does the reverse dial, and she gets Jesse's voicemail where he's like, hey, yo, it's Jesse, yo, like, and she realizes something is up. And I forgot that this even happened so early on in the second episode, and I started getting a little thing in my chest, like a little bit of tension, and that's when I thought, that's great, I'm still invested in this, even though I know everything that happens all the way to the end, which is so much. It got me like, oh my god, you know, already he's slipping up so badly, and it makes you wonder how he even gets to where he gets to later on. And there's a great moment when he's teaching the class and he's talking about these mirror images, and there's some great symbolism going on there where he's talking about, you know, the left hand and the right hand are mirror images of each other. They're identical but yet they're different, and how there are chemical things where, you know, you can have the exact same elements or whatever, and the right isomer and the left isomer are actually different, and so they look the same. They read out as the same, but they're different, and it's almost like, again, he's talking about maybe the double life that well, not that he's saying it to kind of, not that he's knowingly doing that, but it's almost, you know, as far as the show goes, it's kind of like putting into your head the idea of kind of like a difference of, you know, keeping up appearances, but there's something else going on, you know, where you have Walt at home, you have Walt when he's there with Jesse, and there are two completely different people going on there. And the crossover between that. At least that's what I got out of it. Again, I might be being wanky by thinking that, but I kind of feel like that writing's there for a reason. Either way, what was great about the scene, apart from that, was that one of his students says, is this going to be covered in the murder? And Walt kind of does like a, what, you know? And then he says it again, is this going to be covered in the midterm? And that's when you start to even think about yourself, holy shit, yeah, he's right, you know, Walt has murdered someone. You know, in a matter of weeks, he has gone from this straight-laced guy who was kind of, you know, skeptically looking at this veggie bacon, to a guy who has murdered someone and is now having to deal with a body and someone else who he almost killed. It's a crazy thing to think about, and that little moment at the beat in the scene kind of brings it back to the forefront for me anyway. I was like, holy shit, he did murder someone. It's crazy when you think about it. I mean, once you've seen all the Breaking Bad, little things that you don't think about the beginning as being so bad, but it really, really is. I mean, just this first 2 episodes is almost enough to make a fantastic drama film. You know, there's so much going on, and it's really heavy stuff. And then again, as we move forward, it gets just crazy. But I like that little moment. Walt goes over to Jesse's place, and they're trying to deliberate what to do. It's also something I noticed where, you know, Walt was. I have some notes actually. So Jesse is kind of biding his time, waiting for Walt to come back, and he notices that the door of the RV, which is parked outside his house, is open. He goes down, and Crazy 8 is gone, the one who was still alive. I mean, the Walt and Jesse were kind of hoping that maybe, you know, the Crazy 8 would just, you know, he was taking longer to die than Emilio, but he was alive and kicking, and he escaped the RV. Jesse realizes that, and he's like, holy shit. Walt is driving to Jesse's house, and he drives straight past Crazy 8, who's walking through the middle of the road like a zombie. His face is all like messed up from the chemicals and stuff, and he's like, I mean, it's not like RoboCop bad, but you know, he's messed up. So Walt drives back, and he's like, hey, what are you? And then as soon as Crazy 8 sees that it's Walt, he's scared shitless, and he takes off running and just crashes into a tree. So Walt picks him up, takes him back to Jesse's. They dump him in the basement. He's still alive, and you know, Walt's pissed off and stuff, and so they're trying to decide what to do. And Walt is like, he's saying, how are we going to deal with this? How are we going to deal with this? And Jesse's like, you know, I'm all ears. They just don't know what to do. And Walt says, well, what kind of guy is this? Is this Crazy 8? you know, do you think he would see reason? Do you think he can be reasoned with? And Jesse said, well, there's the fact that he tried to kill us both, so there's that, you know. I mean, I don't think he's probably someone who's going to be reasoning or be taking reason from us. And so Walt is really frustrated in this moment, and I love this little bit where I can't remember what it is, but at one point Jesse says like something fucking this or whatever. And it kind of blew me back. I was like, holy shit, he just said fucking like it was nothing. And I remembered actually in the audio commentary for the first episode, and it sounded like they recorded the audio commentary after they'd done the first season, obviously, and they were just about to do the second season. And Vince Gilligan was like, yeah, well, I think we're going to have to be careful in the next season with language. We can't swear as much as we used to in the first season because of AMC and certain things. So that's really interesting, because as far as I remembered, the F-bomb is dropped like once per season, and when it's shown on TV, it's muted. And I'll get to one instance of that way in the future, I think in season 4, and I'll tell you how when I first watched it, it was muted. In fact, no, I can go to season 1, I think. I'll just say that there's one moment where someone says to a character, you know, fuck you. And when I watched it, it was the TV version, and so he goes, you. And I was like, did he just like go, did he just like begin to say fuck and then just didn't say it? And it seemed really weird to me, and I thought that's an interesting choice. And then I realized that it was censored. It wasn't bleeped. It was just, you know, it was dropped out of the audio mix. But yeah, I was kind of surprised. Like, this is the first time watching it on Blu-ray, so it's uncensored. And you know, Jesse just said fucking or whatever, and it sounds so natural. But of course, in the future seasons, we don't get the F word as much, or you know, if at all, once per season, which is a shame, I think, because it's definitely a natural word that Jesse would be using a lot. But of course, as we all know, you know, there is a certain B word that he likes to drop continuously, and so that they definitely go to the well with that one. Anyway, so Walt and Jesse, they're trying to decide what to do, and Walt comes to the idea that, and it kind of seems like, because Walt's like, I don't know what to do, maybe the best course of action is to dissolve the body in hydrochloric acid, or hydrofluoric it might be, I'm not sure which one it is, I'm pretty sure it's hydrochloric, but either way, a very concentrated acid that will dissolve, you know, human matter right down to the bone, disintegrated, you know. If you leave it now long enough, it dissolves metal, stone, all these kind of materials. But Walt had already taken these, I don't know actually, I'm not sure if Walt brought big jugs of the hydrochloric acid or if it was big jugs of water, because later on he goes down and gives Crazy 8 these two, a big jug of water and a jug to piss in. So I'm not sure actually, I can't attest to that, I should have maybe double checked, but either way, comes up with the idea to dissolve them in acid, which, I mean, as soon as I heard that and the first time I watched the series, I was like, holy shit, this is getting really heavy. Like, I wasn't sure where you know, everything was going to go, obviously. This is my first experience, and this is when it just started blowing my mind, that just the idea of dissolving someone's body in acid is so fucked up. I was like, this is going to take this story places that is really going to get me. In terms of the tension and the just mind-blowedness, you know, just blah. And so Jesse goes out to find these plastic containers to do it in, and he's like trying to sit in it in the store and stuff. He's phoning up Walt and saying, you know, what kind of plastic do I need? And they flip the coin basically. Who's gonna, you know, do what? Because they have a body in the RV, they have a guy who's half alive in the basement. So someone's gonna have to kill the guy in the basement. Someone's gonna have to take care of the body. Walt says, I feel like a situation like this, it's only good form to flip a coin. And Jesse's like, no, I'll do the body. I'll do the acid with the body. And Walt's like, heads or tails. So he flips it, and Jesse gets the pick. And Walt says, best 2 out of 3. So Walt is left with the task of killing Crazy 8 down in the basement. Jesse has to deal with the body. But Walt can't do it. And there's a great scene where earlier on we saw Jesse empty a whole bag of weed on his kitchen counter. And Walt's there waiting for Jesse to go get the plastic stuff and ruminating over how he's going to kill Crazy 8. He gets a hammer out and he's like trying to mime it out, and he just doesn't know what to do. And so he tries to roll a joint unsuccessfully. Finally he gets it right and just starts smoking up weed. And that's kind of a really funny moment, because it's kind of like, again, you go back to not only, you know, just one episode ago, this straight-laced guy. I mean, you could assume that he probably had done weed in his earlier days, but I mean, certainly not at this point in his life. And he's just sat in the dining room just smoking a joint, and it's just a kind of funny moment. There's a lot of, I'm not saying that moment is there to be funny explicitly, but there are these moments of humor to be taken out of these very dark situations. That's something I think the show does very well. You know, and so Jesse comes back and Walt says, I haven't done it, I can't do it, you know, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow, you know, and Jesse's like, but we flipped the coin. We flipped the coin. Another really funny moment. I'm getting my timeline mixed up here already because there's a part where they're not sure if Crazy 8 is going to get up and move. They decide they should probably tie him down. Jesse gets a D-lock, puts it around his head to see if he can, you know, escape. That's what they use. They use a D-lock around Crazy 8's neck and attach it to a pole in the basement. And the guy who plays Crazy 8 is fantastic when he first kind of wakes up and Walt comes down with a plastic bag to perhaps suffocate him. And he's like, who's there? You know, and just like, he's not making much sense, but he just sounds so believable. And Walt just walks back up again. He loses his bottle. He's not going to suffocate the guy. And you know, the guy's like, I need water. Can you give me water? So Walt, you know, there's a great shot of just Crazy 8 sat there, and we just see this jug get slid across the floor to him. And then another jug, you know, one to drink from, one to piss in. He slides a plate across the room. There's a sandwich there. He slides a bucket across and then rolls a bit of the toilet roll over and then some hand sanitizer. You know, he's keeping his distance from this guy. And the whole time Crazy 8 is just looking at him, collecting the stuff, but just looking at him. And it's a really, really great little moment in the episode. You just feel the conflict of this guy who, you know, he didn't want to kill anyone, but he's been put in this situation where it feels like it's the only thing he can do, and that's only going to get explored further in the next episode. And I've forgotten exactly what takes place in this episode. So again, it was like being surprised by everything. All the while Skyler is kind of investigating. She looks up Jesse's phone number, finds out who he is, searches him up on the internet, and she finds his My Shout page with like some gangster music that's playing when she opens the page. It's like loads of colourful pictures of Jesse and like yo gangster and all this, milfs, and you know, come to me if you want the drugs. Like, it's ridiculous. And that's something I kind of criticize, is that it seemed unlikely that he would have a web page dedicated to himself. I'm not sure. I didn't read the web pages and pause it or anything and freeze frame that if it says that he sells drugs, but it's kind of implied. If not, certainly he's just kind of, maybe it's just a page he's just trying to show off that he's, you know, a G or something like that. He's just kind of trying to be thug about it, I guess, and his image. I don't know. But it just, and that's another thing I'll criticize, is that they parked the RV right outside Jesse's house with the side with all the bullet holes in the door facing out to, you know, anyone could walk past and see it. And it feels like a neighborhood where it would be very much a nosy neighbor kind of situation where someone would see that and they would say something, you know. And so, you know, do they back the RV in the other way so that the bullet holes in the door aren't facing out to the public? But then the scene where, you know, Jesse's pulling the body out would be a lot more awkward in terms of us seeing it. So you kind of pick your poison in a way with stuff like that, and you've got to kind of suspend your disbelief a little bit, you know. And Skyler turns up eventually to confront Jesse. But before that, we have a fantastic scene where Skyler is at the hospital with Walt, and she has a ultrasound. They get to see the baby, and they find out the sex of the baby they're expecting. I'm not sure if I mentioned, but I think it was said in episode 1 it was a baby that Walt wasn't even expecting. It was kind of an accident, but they're rolling with it. Again, he's 50, you know, Walt Jr. is a teenager, so it definitely doesn't seem to fit the normal family mold, but, you know, it does happen, and they seem very happy at the idea of having another child. So they're there having the ultrasound, and the woman says, do you want to know if it's a boy or a girl? And they say okay, and she says it's going to be a girl. And man, the acting was just pitch perfect. You know, the smile on Walter's face was awesome. Like, it just really sold his happiness. And he said to Skyler, "Can I tell you that I was secretly hoping that'd be the case? You know, they're going to get a girl, and it's, you know, it would change their lives completely. Obviously, regardless if it was a boy or a girl. But, you know, to have a boy and then to have a girl, it's almost more special. And there's a great moment between the two. The woman leaves, and this is when Skyler kind of decides to kind of confront Walt about the phone call and him getting back late and not telling her why, and passing out in the bathroom all night. And she says, "Who's Jesse Pinkman?" Holy shit, you know, and he's like, "What?" You know, and it's such a great scene. And she's like, "Who's Jesse Pinkman? He called you earlier. Why?" You know, and he, you know, "Why are you associating yourself with it? What are you hiding from me? Tell me right now." And Anna Gunn does a great job in this scene because her bottom lip is ever so slightly quivering. Not in an over-the-top way, but in a believable way where I could read on her face how nervous she was. You know, and I'm assuming a lot of people have been through this, where you have a very intense conversation with someone over some real home truths where, you know, no one is comfortable and the voices are shaking and it gets your heart rate going. And that's exactly what I felt from her facial expression in that scene. And Walter says, he sells me pot. I liked it, so I don't know what I've been doing with myself lately, but you know. And she's like, have you any idea how stupid that is? Are you a kid again or something? And she gives him a good talking to over it, and he stands up, and it's one of my favourite moments of the whole series. He says to her, I can't remember the exact wording, but you know, he appears to be calm and collected and adult in his speaking, and he says, you know, it would really help me if you could just climb down out of my ass for a moment. Could you do that? Could you just get off my ass? Just once? I'd really appreciate it. And she's just speechless, like it's such a great scene. And he just, he'd lost his rag. Obviously, he's thinking in the back of his head, I've got a body to deal with and a guy I probably have to kill in a few hours. You know, do you really need to start, you know, chastising me over something you don't even know the half of? You know, I love that scene so much. So he goes back. Or at least somewhere in the interim, Skyler goes to confront Jesse as he's pulling the body out of the oven. I mean, holy shit, the tension in that scene where there's literally a body just behind his car and she could easily see it, and Jesse's like, whoa, 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 trying to block it from view, and the whole time you're like, is she going to see this body? Of course I knew that she didn't. I knew that, I remembered that much, but she says to Jesse, you know, she's like, you know, don't you dare sell weed to my husband again, and you know, it's fairly standard. So Walt comes back and Jesse's like, you know, oh, so your brother's a DEA agent, huh? Your wife came over and told me and was giving me a hard time, and Walt was like, oh my god. Jesse's like, why were you telling your wife that I sold you pot? Walt says, well, at the time it just seemed better than telling her I'd killed someone and cut crystal meth. So, again, the humour in these dark situations. And this is right at the very end of the episode. And before that, again, I'm jumping around, but before that moment where Walt comes back and Jesse says, your wife's been to see me, Jesse takes it upon himself. He's smoking up and he's decides, right, I'm going to do this. He drags the body upstairs, during which point Skyler comes over and doesn't see the body, thankfully. He drags the body of Emilio up into his bathtub. The whole time he's talking and like, yeah, of course, yeah, you know, and it's a really good little scene where you can tell his frustration is coming through. He ungaffer takes the body, puts it into the bathtub, and we get the first signature see-through shot, is what I like to call it, where we see the camera is pointing up from underneath the bath, and the bottom of the bath is clear. Now, obviously, that's not the case in real life, but we see the face of Emilio squashed up against the clear plate that they put down, and it makes you feel like you're underneath the bath and kind of seeing something that you shouldn't see, and it's in a perspective that you've likely never seen before. And I love these shots in Breaking Bad. It's really, really cool. Doesn't feel too gimmicky and really fits in as Jesse puts on these long gloves and the gas mask and starts to pour this hydrochloric or fluoric acid onto the body of Emilio. I mean, holy shit, this is when I just started to think this is going like crazy. Walt gets back and Jesse's like, you know, yeah, well, you've been gone and doing this and that, you know, I've been getting the real work done. Do you know how hard it was to drag the body upstairs? Walt's like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? And he's like, yeah, well, you know, you got me off trying to get a plastic tub when I didn't realise that we got a perfectly good bathtub upstairs. And Walt realises what Jesse's done. And he's like, oh god, no. Oh god, no. And he walks into the hallway, he looks at the ceiling, and the ceiling is starting to drip with blood. They both look, and this is the first holy fuck ton moment of Breaking Bad. The ceiling gives way, and just a unmitigated mass of fragments of body, flesh, bone, mainly blood, comes just crashing down on the floor, splattering everywhere, acid, and it's steaming, and more blood is just like sopping down from the ceiling, where the bathtub bottom has just opened up a hole in the floor slash ceiling, and a fantastic shot of Walt and Jesse looking up through the hole, and Walt is like, yeah, maybe should have mentioned, you know, that the reason I told you to get plastic and plastic only is because this acid will dissolve through pretty much anything. Fuck, like, it is such an unbelievable moment of just like, did that just happen? Where is the rest of the show going if this is episode 2, you know? And it's, yeah, it's a great episode. There are things I can criticize at the very beginning when Walt and Jesse are in the RV, just they're about to drive it out of the desert back home to town. There's a shot of Walt and Jesse talking, and the desert is viewable through the front windscreen of the RV, and it's a green screen shot. And you can tell it's a green screen shot, and it's even a bit fuzzy around the hair, and that kind of bugs me. It is certainly not something to take a point away from. It's just a minor technical thing I noticed. Again, it is the first season. I'm sure they probably got better at this stuff as they went along. It was, you know, again, the first season. It's kind of unproven, you know, testing ground when you make a show in terms of the money you're given as well, probably. And also, again, the fact that Jesse had a website and that the RV thing I thought was a bit, you know, that was kind of it, really. What else is there? I'm sure there was something else. Oh yeah, Walt. The line that Walt said, which was like, you know, well, I could tell my wife that I was buying pot or that I was cooking crystal meth and killed a man. It somehow seemed preferable to say that at the time. Yeah, no, that's pretty much it actually for this episode. Just the Jesse having the website, the green screen shot that wasn't very good, and then just the fact that the RV was parked there with bullet holes in plain view of the public. But there's going to be plenty of that throughout the series anyway. It's still a fantastic episode. I'm not going to rate these episodes, there's no point. I love everything. But I certainly love this one, and I was surprised that I got the chest tension from some of the scenes. I've noted down things to talk about, not many. Yeah, this is one last thing to say. When Walt and Skyler find out that they're going to have a girl, and Walt says, yeah, as I mentioned, he said, "Can I tell you something? I was secretly hoping that it would be a girl." And Skyler says, I can't believe I forgot this. She says, yeah, well, you know, you just say that when she's 16 and dating. And his face just drops, and the acting by Bryan Cranston is phenomenal. I mean, they both do such a great job in this scene. It's the best scene of the episode. And he just has to turn away for a moment and just kind of collect himself, because he knows he's never going to see his daughter at 16, and has resigned himself to his mortality again, which is something he faces in the first episode. And with the second episode, you just see again the further and further he falls into this pit where, you know, he's put himself on the wrong track, and it is becoming increasingly hard to get off that track. And the things that he's done so far are just sticking him to the track, and he can't get his foot off, because you got Crazy 8 down in the basement, and you got this body that is now disintegrated and all over Jesse's, you know, hallway floor. How the hell are they gonna, you know, again, it's like, tune in next week. How are Walt and Jesse gonna get out of this one? It was fun to see Walt and Jesse's relationship begin to, you know, blossom in the worst possible way in this episode. The banter between the two as they're arguing over everything. Because they both have valid points, you know. Walt definitely has a valid point for Jesse not keeping an eye on the RV and everything, and Jesse definitely has a valid point of, you dragged me into all this shit, you know. And you get a feeling that, you know, this isn't something that Jesse, you know, ever really did, dealing with killing people in any way. Although he does say at one point, you know, I don't do good with dead bodies, so it's kind of implied that he might have dealt with something like that in the past. But yeah, it's I love the issues that it deals with. You know, if you go too far over the edge in with something, it's going to create a chain reaction where it's going to be very hard to clear yourself of everything to do with that. And again, it's brought up that his brother-in-law is a DEA agent, and so that just complicates things even more. So that's it for this episode, this review of episode 2, season 1 of Breaking Bad, The Cat's in the Bag. I'm not sure what that kind of refers to, so to speak. Sometimes I understand where the episode titles are going and mean, sometimes I don't. And there'll be a lot more to talk about with that in the future, because there's some really cool episode titles. Anyway, let me know your thoughts on this episode. And hopefully this series will be a success. I'm not sure how viewable these videos are going to be, because I'm talking about these episodes so much and just basically kind of just telling you what happens, but kind of giving my thoughts on them as I go along. We'll see where it goes. Again, I'm willing for an open to feedback. If people want to maybe see me talk less about the episode, maybe make the video shorter, I don't know. Let me know what you think. But yeah, another great episode, really, really good, and I can't wait to dive into episode 3. I'd love to watch it right now, but I'm going to savor it. I'm going to savor it and wait till next week, and hopefully that'll make it more watchable for you guys. And again, maybe you can kind of keep up with me, so to speak. But I definitely wouldn't hold it against you for just powering ahead and getting right into it, because I certainly feel like doing that myself. But I feel like the right way to do this is to kind of savor it and kind of enjoy my time in Albuquerque every week. And I'll have all the special features to look forward to as I go through as well. And so, yeah, lots to look forward to for me personally anyway. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. And remember, always to tread lightly.
So you might say he's a really nice guy, really, but if fucking don't cut shit with me. He says he's really cool, but I think he's a tool.